Good morning, family. Welcome back to the Walk Live. I know I'm in a mellow mood this morning, but I need to stay here for a moment so that I can get you what it is that I feel that God is leading me to give you. And this will be super transparent for me because this is my testimony. So this morning, I've had to interact with someone who I hold a lot of things for. A lot of things like resentment, anger, hurt, confusion, just all the things you can think of. All the things you can think of. And there is just an anger, there's just a intolerance that I have towards this person. No mercy. I have felt like in the past that when I did extend grace or extend mercy or extend some sort of kindness or open up, that it has been abused, or that at some point I just would be sorry that I did. And so I could feel my heart over time just hardening. Sometimes it doesn't even take much except for a thought about what happened, and I'm there. Or just something that happens that, right there, like if something happens today that same person does, and it just, everything that happens starts flowing back. Like, I literally despise you. I know. That is heavy. And I don't like to say the word hate, but despise is right up there with it. So it's not like I am just in the clear, despite feeling that all the things that I have received from this person are deserving of some sort of vindication, some sort of they're deserving of the things that I have, the anger, the attitude, all the things, resentment, all of them. Despite the fact that I feel that what I've received from this person, it is deserving of all of those things, I still, at the end of the day, am convicted. It's almost, and I had to talk to God about this. It's like, Lord, it's almost as if you don't see what this person's done. It's almost like that, Lord. It's almost like you expect me to not respond to this, what is happening. Not respond to the painful things, the mean things that are being done. You keep convicting me, although there is a wrong being done. That was so confusing to me, because I was like, seriously? So, you feel like a kid again. Like when you're in the classroom and somebody does something to you, and then you respond, and the teacher sees you though, and the teacher's like, hey, stop doing that. And you're like, but that's the way it feels. And I feel God saying, you still have a responsibility despite them. You still have to live. You still have to, your character still has to be intact. If you allow everything that is happening to you to interfere and to control who it is that you are, who it is that you're going to choose to be, then you're going to have a difficult time living for me. Because you're going to encounter other people who are facing so many other different things, who still are holding on to lots of things, anger, and they're disrespectful half the time or all the time. Like, what if you encounter someone like this? How is your heart going to be able to be open enough, postured enough to allow me to get in there? And it's funny because I'm doing a devotional by Bernice King, Martin Luther King's daughter, and it is all about this type of thing. And she said just that even though an injustice happens, we have to have enough, we have to open up enough, open our heart enough to allow Jesus to get in. It's crazy because we feel the injustice, and it's so wrong. We want it to change. We want justice, is what we say. But really, we want retaliation. We want vindication. Because if we really wanted it to be righted, then we would do what it would take in order to right that wrong. What if whatever is happening to you, whatever that injustice is, what if the remedy was for God to get in, to be able to change their hearts, to be able to affect some sort of change, to be able to bring them to a place where they are not broken anymore, they are not hurting anymore. So how else can he get in if your frustration, your actions are matching the injustice that you just got? At what point, where do we open the door for Jesus? That is a tough thing to grapple with. Extremely tough. Because at some point you sit and you realize, more than I want justice, I want to be vindicated. I want them to understand how much they hurt me. I want them to feel it. I want them to grasp that they did. And I want an apology. I want an authentic apology. And I want them to not do it anymore. As a matter of fact, I want them to apologize until I feel like they get it. I want their posture to be one of I'm sorry. Every time I encounter them, I want it to be like that. Until I feel like everything's fine, that's how I want them to be. And that's how our actions back that up, that thought right there. You know how? Because I'll tell you how. I realized it, this morning when I had to interact with this person, there was no mercy. There was no grace given. I could not stand to hear their voice. It didn't matter what they said. It didn't matter what they did. It was all, to me, they were already in debt. They were already in debt. They had racked up so much debt with me. They owe me. They've racked up so much debt with me that when they started to put stuff in there, they were still in the negative. I didn't want to hear none of it. So here I am withholding grace, mercy, kindness, forgiveness. I'm withholding all of these things and more. You don't get any of this until I feel vindicated. And you know what? It is not even about your apology. If you apologize or do a nice gesture and I still don't feel like you're sorry enough, if I don't feel like I'm vindicated, you still don't get none of those things. You don't get no forgiveness, no mercy, no none of it. None of it. So there. I will hold it. And then as I spoke that, out loud to God and said that I know I'm withholding these things. God strengthened that feeling, that conviction. It was like, how? How do you feel like you have the right? Do you count yourself more righteous than Jesus? You know, the one who was beaten and bruised and mocked and ridiculed for you. The one who didn't have a spiteful thing to say back. I mean, people were calling him all kind of things. They were accusing him. They were attacking his character, saying he was lying. They were laughing at him. They were beating him. And still, he didn't withhold any of the things that I'm withholding. So Jesus, the Messiah, the Savior of this entire world, would not withhold grace and mercy and love for these people. And I feel I'm owed, and I will withhold it until it's given to me. Me in my beautiful skin with no bruises. I have no crown of thorns. I'm not bleeding. I'm just sitting here looking fabulously, demanding my vindication before I release any bit of grace. How dare I? I say this to you with it still being fresh. It is fresh. It hasn't even been an hour since I experienced this. I'm saying this to you not with this long-lived experience. I've had a lifetime of a time to work through this and come out, and I'm better now, and now I'm bringing this teaching to you. I'm telling you this right in the middle of it. God desires that I give this. And it doesn't matter what happened to me. When I say it doesn't matter, I mean in the scope of whether I can release it or not, or should release this stuff or not. It doesn't matter. When I say it doesn't matter, it doesn't mean that God doesn't see what happened to you. It doesn't mean that he does not care what happened to you. It means that he still desires that you be who he's called you to be. And you know what? We know when we are not being who God has called us to be. Because right when we stop being who he's called us to be, we often feel it. We often get that conviction. And it's so crazy because it can happen no matter what's going on. So you're standing before these people who are talking about you, taunting you, dragging your name through the mud, treating you like you a punk. And still the Lord demands that you give these things. Well, we were given these things. Every day God forgives us for something. Every day God extends grace and mercy. Every day he allows us to wake up. We even get to, with the same breath that he's given us, we even get to say crazy stuff. It's people out here walking right now, walking around, who will say they don't even believe. I don't believe in you, and you know what? I don't know why you would do something like that. And if you even existed, then you don't even. You know what, Lord? I don't know nothing about you, but I'm gonna serve this over here. I'm gonna worship this tree right here. If you are up there, you're not much of a God, are you? There's people out here saying these things with the same breath that God has given them. You're using the breath that I am breathing through you right now to turn around and disrespect me. So the moral of the story is we have a responsibility no matter what. No matter what. I know what they said and what they did, but at the end of the day, you have an assignment on your life. God is leading you somewhere, and sometimes you're going to have to take that tough look in and say, you forgave me. You extended your grace when you didn't have to. You died for me, and you allowed people to ridicule you and mock you, and surely I can serve my enemy. Surely I can pray for my enemy. Surely I can extend grace even when it's not deserved, because after all, that is what grace is. After all, that is what you do for me. And another thing to think about is this. Matthew 7:1-5. Judge not, that you be not judged. For with the judgment you pronounce, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Why do you seek the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? That's why do you see. Why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when there is the log in your own eye? You hypocrite. First take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. And trust me, there are way more verses about judgment, and the Bible doesn't tell us to not judge. It only tells us to not judge unless we want to be judged the same way. And then when it tells us if we are going to judge righteously. There are many scriptures about that. I encourage you to look those things up. One thing I want to make clear here is that it's not that what they did to you or what they are doing to you is not something that is painful. It's not that what they did or are doing to you is not something that is deserving of something of the same measure. It's not that what they did to you or are doing to you, it's not that you are doing the same thing. That's not what I'm saying. Some of you are probably like, but what they did, like, I understand you got to look at inward and look at yourself, but I am literally trying over here to be this type of person. I understand I'm not perfect, but I'm certainly not doing these things that this person is doing. This is overboard. Do I take the fact that I'm not perfect and then because of that just say, oh, it's okay that this person is being this horrible to me because I know that I'm not a perfect human being? In no state, even if you do the best things ever and give to the poor all you have and all the things, you will still never arrive at the point where you're going to be a perfect person. So how is it fair to say, oh, well, I got to look at the fact that I'm not a perfect person in order to, be able to deal with this situation with this person. I got to accept it because I'm not perfect myself. I know I've been really on the right path doing things that I want to. I'm trying to please God. I'm trying to do all this, but hey, still not perfect. So if they are this way towards you, then you got to take it. I understand that sounds like that doesn't even make sense. What we have to understand is a few other things. We can't just look at that and only take that into consideration. We have to take into consideration that we are not just looking at our actions towards this person. Like, I've been kind to this person, or I haven't done anything like super bad to this person, so why is it that they get to do me like that? We're not just looking at our actions toward this person. We're looking at our actions as a whole. Maybe not even just towards certain people in this world. Maybe we got to look at our actions towards God. What is it that He is doing for us that we refuse to do for others? So take into consideration not just what you're seeing here, not just your natural experience, but what is happening spiritually. What have you been gifted spiritually that you refuse to gift to others? It's not just about what you did or didn't do to this person, or that did or didn't do to another person. There are things that we do all the time to God. There are things that we're gifted all the time from God. So, and we also have to take this into consideration. One of the other reasons that we may have to kind of look over things and give grace that stretches us, that makes us have to bite our teeth and just say, okay, Lord, is because the alternative is a setup. So in the court of law, we have a government that, they have judges in place to try to keep our world going the best that we can. That's something that we've created here to try to keep our world going. So we got people who stand before judges and they're convicted and they have to be sent to jail or whatever. And, we're getting people off the street who just refuse to stop doing bad things or whatever. That's what we've created to try to do the best that we can, to try to keep our world going. When we are judging unrighteously, that is for ourselves. That's a setup. That is a setup, because on one hand, we have the government who is doing what they can to try to keep this world going, to keep us living and thriving and being able to survive here. On the other hand, when you're doing this personally towards another person and holding these things, this is something that is now based upon what God has told you. You are now running this through the filter of, what have I asked you to do? You are now holding something that ultimately, it's like holding a grenade. It's like refusing to throw a grenade, because the things that you are holding begin to eat away at you, and they begin to posture you to be better used and better suited to be used by the enemy instead of by God. This is tough stuff. So it's very different than being in front of a court of law. This is now having to do with you, your relationship with God. Where is God taking you? Can you afford to hold this captive? Can you afford to judge this person and not extend the grace that was extended for you? Can you afford that? Wherever God is taking you, whatever He's going to have you to do in the future, are you going to be able to carry your boatload of hurt and pain and anger and resentment and spiteful actions? Are you going to be able to carry them with you and still be this person who is free to serve God's people? Or when you show up, are they going to look like, what is that? What's on your back? What is that? What is that? Are they going to be so distracted by the fact that you snappy and they ain't even said nothing too bad, and you ain't got 2 minutes into the conversation and you snapping, and that's because of that load on your back? You think that you're going to be able to hold it and you're going to be able to move on from this situation with this other person and go on and just do your thing in the world? But it's going to come out. Other people will be able to see this when you approach others. When you go and do God's work, you will begin to feel it more and more. The weight of the things that you did not let go, the weight of the things that you did not give to God, you will begin to feel those more and more. The closer He brings you to serving others and to going out here and doing His work, doing His will, you will begin to feel that weight more and more. The weight of everything that you did not give to Him. We don't have a choice but to surrender. We don't have a choice but to not hold on to these things, because we can't function holding them. We replay them in our minds over and over again, which takes us to a place where we're asking questions about everything. We are beginning to feel the weight in our everyday lives, just as we matriculate throughout just any simple task, it will crush you. If you want to live for God, there will be hard things. There will be things that you're going to have to be able to look past in order to keep your eye on the prize. The prize is the will of God. We want it at all costs because there is a real enemy who wants to steal that from you at all costs. At the moment that you start to see that the goal of the person that you're trying to become, the person that God has told you that you are, the moment that you see that that person is getting further and further and further and further away, is the moment you need to start lightening your load. What are you carrying with you? This has been extremely hard for me, and I didn't want this to be this long. I thought this might be quicker, but I really want you all to get this. I want you to understand that this is not a dismissal of your thoughts, of your feelings, because they matter. They're valid. But in the scope of kingdom, we got to give it to God and somehow allow Him to bring us through this stuff and over this stuff. Because if we don't, it does come back up. It does come back at the right time to stop us from getting to where we need to be. We might be right on the brink of starting that new business, just opening that, I don't know, care home, or opening that orphanage, or whatever you're trying to do. And then suddenly we're experiencing deep depression. Why? I'm doing this beautiful thing here. Why can't I do this? And why am I not feeling this great thing? Because you haven't let those things go. I can't express to you what it is that God is going to do in your life, but I know that it's something beautiful. He said that He would give us an expected end. You don't expect horrible things. I can't express to you how important it is for you to let go of these things. As I said, this is not a dismissal of your feelings. I know that they've done things. I know that it's hurt you. I know that they continue to do things. I know that. But you have to find a way to stay on the path that God wants you to be on. Because this is just an indication. If you get tripped up here and continue to stay here, this is an indication of how it will be going on down the line with other people and other people and other people. And when you surrender to God, you're in the business of people. He works through you. You are His hands and feet. What a great plan to have you stumble and have issues with people, trouble trusting people, trouble dealing with people early on. Because if the enemy can get you to be this, to do this now, then how will you deal with them later? How will you be in the people business later? Now, I want to say this, and I'm done. This doesn't mean that you don't get to look at people's actions and determine whether you may need to stay, kind of away from them so that you can continue to hear from God, so that your spirit is not constantly interrupted. This doesn't mean that you don't need to start creating boundaries and things like that in order to make sure that you are not needlessly subjecting yourself constantly to this type of thing. Because God is working on you. You're a work in progress, and He needs that space to be able to get in there. And if you're constantly exposing yourself to this stuff, then it's going to be a bit difficult. And some of you, I know it's hard. You don't have much of a choice to stay away. But I'm just going to say, do the best you can. Do the best you can with creating boundaries. Do the best you can with asking God, when I do have to encounter this person, help me. You show up instead of me. I'll get behind you, and if I don't have anything that I can say that's kind, or any gestures that can be kind or servant-like, then I'll at least be quiet. I'll at least shut my mouth so that you can still be seen. You can still have an in. You can have a way in. At least if I'm not talking and spewing out all of my anger, you can at least have a way in. That gives God a moment to, he can plant a thought in your heart and the other person's heart. But if you're already going off, then it's going to be hard to get in there. Thank y'all for going on this journey with me. This is The Walk Live. This is the reason that I wanted to name this channel this, because I wanted you all to, in real time, be able to see me going through these things and triumphing over these things and giving you what I got from it, what I thought, and what God gave me while I was in it. And I want you to know that you can get through it too, and that you can experience victory even with having to encounter things like this on a daily basis. It's getting tough for those who are trying to live lives for God. The pressure is on. The enemy is stepping up his game. And I want you all to be aware of what's happening. Remember, I did the video about you being the target and about it being a setup. Please don't forget that. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. I'll link it. This is not just about this person doing this to you. This is a great, elaborate plot, elaborate effort to bring you someone who you know is called and chosen, to bring you to a place where you're closer and within reach of the enemy. That is his plot. We gotta stay strong. I'll encourage you as much as I possibly can. Excuse my nasal tone, y'all. I'm getting over being sick again. I had an entirely different video ready to edit and all of this, and this happened, and I said, I gotta do this. And I want to encourage you, please go and look in your word for these things. There was a parable about a king who forgave the debt of one of his servants, and then his servant had a servant whom his servant decided that he was not going to forgive or show mercy to his servant, even though his king just gave him mercy and forgave his debt. And of course, it's mimicking the story of how our sins and our debts were forgiven. Our king forgave our debts, and we have the same responsibility. Our king fully expects us to extend this to others. It's going to be tough. We're going to need to ask God for discernment about how to go about this, because we also don't want to be trapped in the grips of someone who is simply out to cause harm to us and to cause us to fall, cause us to continue to wrestle in our spirits, cause us to become a different person. We don't want to be caught in their crosshairs, caught in their clutches, trying to extend this grace. Like, I was trying to be nice, and now I don't know. Here I am. They caught me. They grabbed me up and it turned me into something I never thought I would be. Like, we don't want to get caught up in that. We don't want to open ourselves up so much so that we are vulnerable to whatever it is that this person, or whatever it is, the spirit that this person holds, may be plotting against us. Sometimes if you continue to expose yourself to that person and you're like allowing them to do other things, like allowing them to come in your home and live there and do all types of things, you're continuing to open yourself up to the possibility of them, in whatever spirit they are carrying, to bring you down. We need to understand that when we're doing this, we're not doing this from a place of vulnerability. Yes, it does call for some amount of vulnerability whenever you are extending grace and mercy to someone and continue to try to serve them, even though they're being this mean or horrible person. However, we're doing this from a place of strength, knowing that we have God backing us and His Spirit backing us, giving us what we need to extend to this person. But by no means are we opening it up for them to say, hey, come in and wreak havoc and do whatever you want to do in my life. Take everything from me. No. So it's going to take some discernment. It's going to take you spending time, intentional time with God, building your relationship with Him to be able to know how to walk this thing out. It doesn't always mean that you got to just be doing the most in order to serve someone. But you know when it's getting out of hand, when they can't say a word without you being like, what? Like, you know, it's getting to that place where it's like, I'm carrying things. I'm carrying this load. I'm carrying the resentment. I'm carrying this. I'm holding this mercy and all of this. So, you guys, that's what I wanted to say to you. I hope that helps somebody. Continue to search the word for yourselves about this. I encourage you to do the devotional by Bernice King. It is beautiful. I'm still doing it. I'm in the middle of it, and it's, it convicts me. But I love you all, and if you hear my voice shaking and all of that, is because I am trying not to cough. I've probably edited out most of the coughs in this video, but I'm praying for you, and don't forget to drop your prayer requests at thewalkministries.org, and or put it in the comments here. I'd be happy to pray for you, or you can go to WayFN and do it there. Of course, I'll have all those linked, okay, if you want to use those resources. But again, I love you, and I just needed to share that with you. Thank you so much for listening to this longer video. But I just feel like somebody else needed to hear this. All right. I hope that helps somebody. My journey with God has been just that, a journey. And it's one that I know I was called to share with you. And so I thank you for joining me week in and week